This is Caroline.
Maritess.
Neil.
And this is Laura. Welcome to Med Surg Moments, the AMSN podcast.
This podcast is an engaging look at the lives of and surrounding medical surgical nurses.
We're proud Med-Surg nurses, just like you, sharing our stories, insights, and experiences to support you in your nursing journey.
Well, today is an exciting day as we celebrate our 100th Med Surg Moments episode. We're going to be talking about our thoughts and reflections about our favorite moments and episodes. But before all of that, let's see what's new with everyone. Laura, why don't you start us off?
Hi, Caroline. Happy 100th episode.
I can't believe it. I really cannot.
Oh, it's so exciting. I'm excited to reflect with you. For me, I'm just so excited that the weather is warming up. I've actually got a family trip being planned right now. I have a brother that lives in Pittsburgh, and I haven't seen him in about 3 years. He just bought a new house. He just had a new grandchild. I cannot believe my nephew that I used to babysit is now a dad. So I am excited to meet his little boy. Me and my husband and one of my children is going with me, and then my sister and her husband. So it's going to be a big little mini family reunion. We try to get my dad to go, but my dad is 79 years old, has never been on a plane, and has just decided that he is not going to be one of those people. So he's decided not to come with us, but that's okay. So we're just excited to get up there and see Pennsylvania in the summer. Hopefully it'll be a little less warm than it is here in Texas. So we're looking forward to that.
Pennsylvania is beautiful during the summer. I've taken a few trips. My brother-in-law has a cabin up there in the Poconos, so you'll enjoy it. I always marvel at people like your dad, 79, and never been on a plane before. It's like, wow.
I'm excited. Well, that sounds fun. Neil, what's going on with you?
Graduate school's plucking along as always. Coming out of spring, I love spring. Trying to step away from school for maybe a minute and enjoy maybe a trip to the beach or even the mountains in the summer. Lou has healed from all his prominent injuries here and get him out into that mountains hiking. I always love some fresh air. Most recently at work, my manager knows I'm into nurse education. She wants me to host one of the skills fairs to kind of groom me. So I'm excited about that coming up and taking a little prerequisite class to do that. So other than that, just enjoying working at my new job there at Moses Cone, enjoying school and trying to keep it all together. If I do 2 classes a semester, it will be a year. So I don't know if I want to run that race, that marathon, or that sprint there. So I'm kind of playing with that idea. Other than that, Maritess, what's going on with you? Any new arts and crafts on your creative side there?
Well, the coaster is still on the way, and your beanie, I'm still trying on it. But summer is vacation, so that means it's going to Disney World. That's what it is. Also, with summer, my brother-in-law is getting married. And for this summer, I will continue doing the beanie for you, Neil, and perhaps I will do the same for everybody, for Caroline, for Laura, and for Parker. I will. So,
by the way,
luck.
Navy blue and hunter green are my colors.
I was about to ask your favorite colors. Let me know, and I will try my best to complete.
Navy blue, hunter green.
Got it. Caroline, so what's new with you?
Well, we're approaching summer. You mentioned the D word. Those of you that have been following for 100 episodes will know that I started out this journey down in Florida. One of the reasons, of course, I did that was to be in a very short driving distance of Disney World. However, over the course of time, we've moved back to Georgia. So I haven't been to Disney for several months now. So it's time for another trip. So Maritess, we might have missed each other at the AMPD convention, but we have to meet over a Dole Whip sometime.
Yes, we need to.
The other thing, of course, is I acquired a son-in-law last year whose parents happen to live on Lake Norman Martin, I want to say, in Pelham, Alabama, about 45 minutes from Birmingham. Beautiful place, absolutely beautiful. We spent last 4th of July with them, so maybe I can wheel my way for an invitation for another 4th of July with the in-laws. So we're going to move back in time now. We're going to move on to our conversation regarding the 100th episode of Med Surg Moments.
My name is Alyssa, and on behalf of the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses, I'm very excited to welcome you to the first episode of Med Surg Moments, the AMSN podcast.
I am very proud to say I was one of the first co-hosts. There was Parker, myself, there was Alyssa, and there was Evie.
I'm Evie. I'm Alyssa.
I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Caroline. We look forward to connecting with you. I do remember very vividly.
As co-hosts, we are actually meeting each other for the first time in this episode.
I didn't even know what a podcast really was. I had to ask my kids.
Well, hello, Alyssa and everyone. And this is a very exciting moment for us, getting these podcasts up and running. So I grew up in England. No surprise there. Although this is my...
I think first of all, we were maybe a little more formal.
We'll have guests on from every corner of the industry, bringing you stories that are relatable and compelling on a myriad of topics. Our goal is to bring
I remember feeling like we had to do it question, answer. And it wasn't until several episodes into it that Stuart, I feel as producer, said, just make it like a conversation. And we had a few guest hosts, and I thought we had to be super formal for that. But I think we really get the most out of these 20, 30-minute sessions by just having a conversation. Neil, what was your first memory of Med-Surg Moments? From the listener's perspective first, and now, of course, as an almost famous co-host, because that's all I am.
I never thought in a million years I'd be doing a podcast. I felt like instant cool.
Initially, I didn't share it too much, and people would come up to me and say, "You're the voice of that podcast. That's you.
You're
right?
the podcast lady, right?
You're the podcast lady. That's really pretty cool." I'm like, "Thank you."
I initially joined the Academy of Medical Surgical Nursing by my first true manager and leader, Tracy King. Once again, shameless plug for Tracy King. Thank you. And I had done so many other little side volunteer jobs, reading through books and test questions and stuff like that. And then honestly, I hadn't really gotten into podcasting. Everyone just talks about, oh, my podcast, this person has a podcast, Joe Rogan or whoever. And then magically one of those emails came across the inbox. I said, looking for podcast co-host. And I have to say, for people that know me, I'm a New Yorker. I got a big mouth. I got the gift of gab. I love talking. So I said, let's marry my love of knowledge and talking. And I said, let me roll the dice on this. There's a great book I read a while back for anybody that does oncology studies called The Emperor of All Maladies. And it's the history of cancer. And he said, one of my patients asked me, like, where are we with cancer? And you can't answer where we are unless you look from where we've came. Before auditioning, I said, let me listen to see what they're about. And I didn't recognize some of the names. Like I said, I went to the first few episodes to kind of see. I said, okay, these ladies got a cool little gig here. I think the one thing that came out in all those initial first few I listened to was just sincerity and genuineness about your compassion for nursing.
Oh, wow.
And even to this day, you can't hear us all and not say, these people really care about the field of nursing, whether it's about taking care of each other as nurses or patients.
Maritess, Laura, what are your thoughts? Were you listeners first?
I had listened to one episode called Med Surg Rocks or Why Med Surg Rocks or something like that.
Oh, yes, I remember. Yes.
Looking for ways to kind of empower our residents. And we had just started doing a new nursing residency for our Med Surg nurses at our facility. And I think I was talking about challenges of that first year and why Med Surg is so hard and the hierarchy of nurses. And sometimes Med Surg is at the bottom. So I was looking for ways to build them up. And I happened across that podcast. So I remember listening to that. So that was my first introduction to it.
That's great. We've certainly had some good ones over the past 100 episodes, and we've had some really neat guest hosts and guest speakers. We talked about some very serious subjects. I remember rounding up a coworker of mine to talk about suicide prevention. Today, we're addressing a difficult and multidimensional topic for medical surgical nurses. Suicide is a major concern and one of the leading causes of death in the United States. With us today is Ann Wilder, a licensed professional counselor from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
What we want everyone to remember is this is a moment in time. If we feel overwhelmed, stop a moment, tell someone. If your house supervisor won't listen, get your next level up. If your husband or spouse or partner or significant other is too busy, call a friend who you know from years back. If I can just verbalize to people, I am overwhelmed. I am pulling my hair out. I do not know where to turn. Someone is going to say to me, either verbally, physically, take me in their arms and say, I've got you for just this minute. What we want to be able to do is just lean on one other person until we can once again stand up for ourselves. Do not try to get through it alone. Please, please, please. That's a
very difficult topic, but it was probably one of the episodes I'm the most proud of, for sure. And then the funnest episode, did anyone listen to the Nurse Blake episode?
We have a very special guest with us today that many of you know already. And if you don't, you should do. Nurse Blake joins us today.
So I have been a nurse for 3 years. And this point in my career, I was working in the ICU. And sometimes you doubt yourself and you get burnt out. And sometimes you could feel alone all in the nursing world. And I really wanted a sense of community. I put that video out of me dancing in the scrub romper and it quickly blew up overnight. Like all the news stations were sharing it around the country. And that's when I quickly started realizing that nurses and nursing students around the country want to be able to laugh and relate and connect with.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
And it's just so cool. So
oh my gosh, that boy is just hysterical. But he also has a serious side as well, and talked about his campaign to advocate for blood transfusions in the homosexual community.
So when I was in nursing school, one of my friends, Emmy, we didn't know that Emmy suffers from sickle cell anemia. So when we found this out, she inspired us, me and the class, to go out and donate blood. And I don't like needles. But for Emmy, I was definitely going to do it. So I remember driving to the blood donation center. I was so excited but nervous. They gave me this questionnaire. It's like over 50 questions, and I'm filling it out. And the tech calls me back, and she's reviewing my questionnaire. And she said, "You can't donate blood because you're gay." She said, "There's actually an FDA policy that bans you from donating blood for life." It is an FDA policy that was put in place in the 80s that bans gay and bisexual men from donating blood for life. And I told myself, you know what, I need to do something about this. And through my research, I realized that there wasn't an organization or person that was solely focused on trying to get this policy changed. So I launched this organization called Ban for Life. And we actually got the attention of the FDA, where they called me one day and they're like, "Can you come and present at our blood advisory panel in DC?" And after 2 years of fighting, we actually got the FDA to end the lifetime ban. And I know that's a long
And
story.
so there was a very serious side to all of that fun that he puts out there, for sure. So Maritess, what about you? What was your first impression?
Well, I wanted to share that you guys were my inspiration. So I was already a listener, and one of my birthdays, I won't say the age, my kids told me, "This is your day. Don't do any work. Just stay at home." It's the first time too that I actually asked for paid time off on my birthday, because I usually work on my birthday. And so they said, "Chill at home, be a princess." And so I can't do that. I can't be really chilled. So I was Googling, what to do and all those. I came across you guys in one of the episodes about your video series, because I was looking on podcasts because I was so inspired. I actually started my own podcast on that day. I was so inspired. I want to be like them. I want to be like them.
When you grow up, because you're only 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, I wanted to talk. I like talking. I like doing that. And so I actually purchased the whole web host packaging and all those and everything else. I had probably 3 episodes. I was inspired by you, Carolyn. I said, I can listen to her all day. Her accent.
Darn accent. It works every time, whether it's good or bad. I don't have an accent. I think you all have the accent. It's not me.
Yeah, she speaks the Queen's English. Come on now. We have
That is so true. It's like listening to the Queen all the time. But it's not easy to sustain a podcast. And so when I saw the email about they're looking for a co-host, I said, why not? Let me try. And I'm really very honored. I'm very happy that I'm here. And truly, at first, I was like, this is extra work, I guess, because you need to really research. I really need to know what you're discussing. But I like what you shared, Carolyn, about this is a very informal conversation. This is more of really having fun. So when I place that concept in my perspective that this is fun, I know I'm a nurse, I know what I'm doing, and I'm an educator, and this is me sharing a part of myself to the community. It becomes so natural. It's no work at all.
For real, certainly as I look back, there were definitely some topics that were more serious than others. I also see this as giving back to the medical surgical nursing community and anybody else that wants to listen, because collectively we have several years of nursing experience under our belts, ladies and gentlemen, whether we want to acknowledge this or not. And knowledge and experience should be used, in my mind, to nurture, develop, and mentor our newer nurses, the profession out there for sure. And this is a wonderful platform to do that. And that's one of the things I've enjoyed the most about this for sure. The silliest episode, there was an episode where it was Chelsea and Alyssa. I can't remember if Evie was on it as well. And I don't know, it was like spring break and we were just all giggly and silly and we couldn't get the words out. And I'm sure Stuart had to do so much editing for that episode. But I think now we found a really good balance with the topics, getting the message across, piquing people's interest, getting them to think more about the topic that we've discussed. And certainly looking back now, I'm certainly going to revisit some of those favorite episodes, and maybe we do need to expand and do a part 2 on some of these topics.
I really like, Caroline, how it was so inspiring. When I started listening to the podcast, I was traveling a lot. So I would travel about like 2.5 hours one way. And so I would listen to different podcasts, but getting that opportunity to really listen and relate to a lot of the stories, it was really very exciting too. I'll share that when my team found out that I'm one of the co-hosts, now they look forward to listen to it. And then so they would ask me,
when is the next one going to drop?
What's the next one? And I wanted to listen to that one. And sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit pressured to do it. But like I said, going back to the fun part, I wanted to share what I know in the community and really serve the community, share the great things. But just sharing that, a lot of them are really looking forward to. So it's really serving our colleagues.
I have learned in the past 100 episodes that word does get around. We have seen downloads in 70 plus countries around the world. And that's kind of crazy, you know, that these little conversations we have in our home offices across the country and around the world. It is pretty cool. What are your thoughts about the future? What do you think we should be doing?
I think nursing has gone through a roller coaster the last few years, just trying to recover from all of the effects of COVID.
Yeah.
So I think that staffing shortage is still out there on the horizon. There's a lot in the news about nursing and where the profession is going and where the profession is coming from. So I just look forward to continuing to build up this profession, especially at the Med-Surg level, because we are a real important part of healthcare.
And we wouldn't be here without the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses, an organization specifically for Med-Surg nurses and Med-Surg certification. The blueprint of the exam is changing this year. There'll be new opportunities for certification down the road. And there's always a wonderful convention to think about every year. And NCLEX is changing this year as well. There's another topic we could think about. I think the one interview where I was most terrified was with Dr. Linda Yoder. Today's podcast will explore mentoring and coaching specifically. What's similar, what's different, and most importantly, what does the literature say in support of these two techniques? With us today to talk about these valuable tools is Dr. Linda Yoder. Dr. Yoder currently serves as immediate past president of AMSN and a professor at the University of Texas at Austin School of Nursing.
True mentors work themselves out of a job.
Yes.
They mentor their replacement. So when you have these people that are leaving and all of a sudden there's no replacement, well, shame on us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We have been providing that mentoring to the capable people.
Yep.
so that there would be some choices for a replacement. Many times we see that we have to go outside the organization to find replacements for these leadership roles. And then the nurses inside the organization get discouraged because they're going, well, why are they going outside the organization when we're here and you could have developed us?
Yes. I mean, this woman is just such a force to be reckoned with. Her experience, her knowledge, her depth of understanding and appreciation of the medical surgical nurses.
One thing that I really am looking forward is that we continue to uplift our specialty, but also I wanted to hear our viewers' thoughts. So if you have your thoughts and ideas, send it to amsnpod@amsn.org.
Absolutely, because as a listener, you guys are the ones that we are here for. We are in this together and we want your input.
Yeah, to tag on to Laura and Maritess, send us your ideas. We want this time to be useful time for you. And once again, that email is amsnpod, AMSNPOD @amsn.org.
It's so true. You try to help that next person through. All of us here are very different ages and different stages of where we are in our nursing careers, but you always look back to help pull the next person up. I was listening to something, I think it was Dave Chappelle in one of his comedy specials was always talking about, always punch up for the next person, pull that next person up. If you know somebody who's a young, aspiring CNA to be a nurse, and I feel like part of doing this podcast is helping those voices sometimes that we talk about, like in bullying, where it's like they're just not going to say something because it's not in them. And so to be able to be a voice, or sometimes just the advice we need to hear and not a sit down formal conversation, is great to have on such a platform that can be heard so easily. I travel about an hour to work every day, regardless of which of the hospitals I'm placed at. But it's been nice to hear voices spoken up for the people that don't always get to have that leader or work big brother or sister that kind of gives them those inside tips and tricks to the world. So I feel kind of called to do that with this platform.
We want to be mentors. We want you, the listener, to learn from our experiences, to maybe give you a little bit of insight if these situations ever come to you. One thing that's been important to me is just recognizing that nursing is a lifelong learning. We have to continue to grow. So it's not just certification, it's not just getting another degree, but it's using the resources that you have to improve your knowledge. So whether that's listening to this podcast or attending a webinar or reading a book or an article, we have to continue to grow. We have to continue to learn.
Laura, just kind of tagging on to what you said, I don't think I realized how powerful our voices are in these podcasts. So I don't mean that in an arrogant sort of way, but I think nurse to nurse, we all look to learn from each other's stories, whether they're formal or informal. And so where I felt the most gratitude is by people taking something away from each of these podcasts to develop their knowledge and their continued interest and commitment to the profession of medical surgical nursing.
One thing I want you to know, those of you that are listening to this podcast right now, is that Med Surg is a strong specialty. Med Surg is the bedrock of healthcare. And we sometimes get the short end of the stick. We're sometimes at the bottom of the hierarchy, but it is just as important as every other specialty out there. And so we want to use this platform to share our stories to help you see that we can shine as Med Surg nurses.
3 words: gratitude, honor, and voice. I really look forward to those 3 things because gratitude, I'm really very thankful that I'm part of this platform because I am one of you guys taking care of the patients. Just really very thankful for this opportunity and super honored and humbled as well.
I just want to thank you, the listener, the individual right now, whether it's in your car on the ride home from a long day or heading into the day. And hopefully something one of us says, whether it's just a little catchphrase or the whole episode that connects with you and inspires you to continue to do what you guys do as bedside nurses. And Med Surg nursing is just such a great specialty. It's not a glory hound one. We don't have the fancy thoughts about ourselves like ED or ICU, but we fear nothing. We see everything and anything. So it's like, okay, we got this. Boom. We literally take care of the heart attacks, and we take care of BKA, and we take care of strokes, and we take care of, you name it, we see it. I love it when ICU nurses or ED nurses says, I couldn't do 7 patients or 6 patients all at the same time. It's like, that's right. We somehow magically do it. We have magical med-surg dust that we handle 7 people's needs at times, and their physical and emotional and medical needs. Without listeners, we don't have a need for a show. So truly, thank you for being our inspiration of having this podcast.
You bring a very good point. You need to always tell yourself, you're not just a med-surg nurse. You are a specialty. Med-surg is a specialty. And you need to be proud of that. Be proud to be a medical surgical nurse.
Well, as we begin to wrap up, we are part of the biggest component of healthcare across the country and around the world. We are most definitely a specialty. And as Neil just said, if we haven't seen it already, it's not going to be far away. I really want to take a moment on behalf of the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses to express our thanks and gratitude to each and every one of you who tune in and listen to these podcasts. We're all in this together. Thank you for your support and enthusiasm over these first 100 episodes, and we truly look forward to the next 100. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode of Med-Surg Moments, the AMSN podcast. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. Send us your questions, topic ideas, and feedback via our official Med-Surg Moments email address, amsnpod@amsn.org. That's amsnpod@amsn.org.
I'd also like to remind you to become a member at AMSN or renew your membership at www.amsn.org. You receive lots of cool benefits and perks, such as discounted pricing on the annual convention and continuing education.
We encourage you to help us spread the word and subscribe to the Med-Surg Moments podcast via your smartphone podcast app to receive notifications of future episodes. Please be sure to leave us a review and recommend Med-Surg Moments wherever you get your podcasts to help us reach even more listeners.
I invite you to join the conversation by sharing your ideas and questions on AMSN's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter pages. And don't forget to add hashtag MedSurg Moments to your posts. Simply enter AMSN in the search field on any of these social media platforms to connect with us.
The content within the Med-Surg Moments podcast represents the views, thoughts, and opinions of the co-hosts and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses. Until next time, I'm Caroline.
Laura.
Neil.
And this is Maritess. And always remember, Med-Surg Moments is a moment in our lives, a moment in our med-surg careers that makes a huge difference.